Today's webinar is evaluating and assembling a real estate tech stack that delivers the right customer experience, brought to you by Docusign. What we're discussing today is recent technological trends in the industry and how to distill which ones are essential for your business. I'm joined today by Georg Gerstenfeld, Vice President and General Manager of Global Real Estate for Docusign, Victor Lund, Founder and CEO of RE Technology, and Raj Qsar, Principal Owner of the Boutique Real Estate Group. Glad to have all you gents with us today, and you can take it away when you're ready.
Excellent. Thank you very much. This is George from Docusign, so I'm going to kick us off, and then I will pass the baton to Victor and Raj as we go through the day today. Just wanted to, so with my role as the global GM for real estate, really my responsibility is to provide the tools to our industry to help try to increase broker and agent success. And really it's everything from the moment that you guys get a lead to the moment that a deed is recorded. Just a little bit of a reminder about who Docusign is. I think folks are probably fairly familiar, but always talk about a few stats. So we've got quite a few users all around the world, 200 million individual users, and about 300,000 companies. On the real estate side, we do almost 3 million, about 3 million real estate transactions a year. So quite a bit of coverage in the industry. And one of the things I love is a friend of mine, one of my favorite Docusign stories, my friend Tom is a agent here in Northern California, and he's a huge tennis fan and likes to be able to go to Roland Garros for the French Open for a month every year and plays tennis in Palm Springs once for about a month every year as well. And so he's able to keep his business going because of Docusign. It's been a sort of transformative experience in his life. But that being said, the real estate transaction has really remained unchanged for a long time. So as much as we think it's a great experience for agents and brokers to be able to have documents signed and signed quickly around the world, if we think about the transaction, the core components of it have really been the same for years and years and years. And in fact, in some ways, the transactions become more opaque and more confusing and slower for consumers with TRID and a lot of the new regulations that come on board over the last 5 to 7 years. And so it actually takes, on average across the country, twice as long to complete a transaction as it did 10 years ago, which to consumers in an on-demand economy seems incredibly counterintuitive and not something that they would typically expect. And one of the things I like to use as an example of why we need to think about transforming the transaction and doing something different is I like to think about NCR. I don't know if folks are familiar with this company. It's the National Cash Register Company. And they've been around since the late 1800s. So they're now entering their third century in which they're in business. And they've moved from cash registers to electronic cash registers to computers. And what a lot of folks don't know is today they're the #1 provider for ATMs and airline kiosks. And they've been able to transform themselves as a company through the centuries and through the technology changes to survive in the industry. And I think that's something that as a real estate industry, there's an opportunity for us to take a lesson in how we transform the transaction and that we take ownership of that as opposed to letting somebody like Open Door or Zillow Instant Offers or some of the new companies that are out there that are trying to take control of the transaction, instead of them coming in and potentially disrupting brokers, giving brokers an opportunity to really be that transformative experience for their buyers and sellers. And one of the ways that we look at that is thinking about the complexity in the transaction today. And everybody, I think, on this webinar is familiar. There's a lot of people involved in our real estate transactions. They are so complicated because there's obviously buyers and sellers, borrowers involved, mortgage, lending, notaries, settlement agents. A lot of states have attorney requirements, so attorneys get mixed in. There's a huge number of people that touch this transaction from the moment you get a lead to the moment that deed is recorded. And then there's a lot of process associated with that. And everybody has their own process within their brokerage, within the lending institution, within the title and settlement company. Those processes are very different from place to place, and everybody's kind of got their own workflow within that. And then they've each got systems And this is really the big piece of what we want to talk to you about, and in particular, Victor and Raj are going to talk you through, how they think about how to reconcile all of these disparate systems that today are individual and don't talk to each other. And these systems don't share data back and forth. Everything gets sort of trapped within any one particular data system, and within any one of these, you have any number of vendors from whom you can choose. And so this is a large part of what drives the complexity of the real estate transaction today. And from our view at Docusign, we've been very focused on what we call lead to close. And lead to close is truly achievable today. I think it's something that we have talked about in this industry for 15 years or more, and the technology has finally caught up to, I think, the vision of what people have had, of what they'd like to see from transaction management and driving a lead to close opportunity. And the people in the industry, I think, are also ready. Consumers are certainly ready. When you look at smartphone adoption, online banking adoption levels, the use of on-demand services, the introduction of smart home devices like Nest and that sort of thing, you can see that people are adopting technology in a way that they haven't done before. And so we've got the people ready to accept the technology is there, and what we've done with our Docusign transaction room is created an environment where all these people can come together and collaborate in the same interface in our transaction room, so that each member of the process can see the documents and their tasks that are associated with them, but are private from everybody else. So nobody sees each other's documents, but everybody's working in the same transaction and in the same space. And that's fully integrated with our e-signature product and something new that we've launched over the last year, which is our digital closing product. And with digital closing, you'll be able to notarize electronically, file an electronic note for the mortgage that gets accepted by Fannie and Freddie Mac, and all of that gets vaulted electronically as well. So this entire transaction, from the moment you start to the moment the deed gets recorded, remains paperless the entire time, and there's no piece of that transaction where you have to do what we call papering out. Every one of these functions here can be done electronically now through our transaction room in conjunction with our digital closing and our e-signature product. And the thing that really ties all of that together are what we call our API connectors. So APIs are essentially a set of plumbing tools, to use a highly technical software term, that allow different software applications to talk to each other and exchange data between each other. And so we have built a very, very robust set of API connectors through our transaction room to be able to allow all of these different software systems to talk to each other and pass data back and forth. So now you can take your CRM and a lead, and as soon as that lead has converted into, it's going to be a transaction, you can populate all of that lead data into your transaction room now. And once that data is in the transaction room, it can auto-populate all the forms, so you don't have to hand key all of that data, or your agents don't have to hand key all that data into the form. And you can pass that data into Lone Wolf or Profit Power or any of your accounting systems, so now you can actually forecast where in your process, which deals are in which stage of the process, which deals have closed, and also simplify the commission tracking and commission payment process for your agents. And then all of that data can get passed into the mortgage experience, into your loan origination and title production systems. If you have your own mortgage business, you can connect that within that. A lot of folks in our industry use Encompass by Ellie Mae, or the lender. You can invite that lender into the transaction room, and they'll be able to pull that data with your permission into their files. All of this is done fully under your control as a broker, and only with your permission as a broker, and only for your brokerage's use of that data to make it the best possible experience for you, your agents, your buyers, and your sellers. So there's a very high degree of privacy and security in here, and a very high degree of control. Our goal is to enable you to use your data to run your business better. We're a applications company trying to help provide tools to make life a little bit easier for you and your clients. We have no interest in looking at that data, selling advertising on that data. That's just sort of not the Docusign business model. And so we're very excited about what we can do from a lead to close front with all of the technology capabilities that we've brought to the forefront today. Here's just a few examples of the companies. The logos that are in color are actual live integrations. We just came from the National Association of Realtors annual conference this last weekend and announced a number of these live integrations that are ready to go and active. And these aren't just deals that we've done, but these are actually software integrations that you can use today, tomorrow, and in the future. Some of the ones in gray are actually still in the works, and so these will be coming out sort of every month. We'll have a new wave of integration partners, and in particular, you can see on the front end here, we've got a lot on the marketing and lead gen side, some on the deal management, of course, back office, and what's really important from our view is taking this all the way through the mortgage and the loan process and the title process. And so you'll see on this side with ancillary services, a lot more with home warranty, home inspection, mortgage title coming in that column in particular. And that's a lot of sort of technology ideas. And one thing that I will say is that transformation may feel like a big investment in time, a big investment in resources. Victor's going to walk you through in a moment how to think through that technology stack and how to take a orderly sort of process and roadmap to get there. But what I want to tell you is that investment in time, which may seem difficult in the beginning, is absolutely worth it. And the benefits are truly there for you. And Raj can tell you a little bit about the benefits that he's seen in his business. He's one of the most technology advanced brokers that we work with and has really put the technology stack to great use for him. From our perspective, what we've seen at Docusign, we did a survey of a few thousand of our customers, and what we saw is benefits across the board. Speed of transactions cut from 8 days to less than half a day. The cost per transaction dropping 38%. Huge, huge cost savings opportunities, big upside opportunity in compliance, and Net Promoter is something that folks may not be familiar with. Net Promoter is essentially a form of customer satisfaction, and it basically says how many people are willing to promote your products and tell other people and recommend you and say how great you are, and how many people are detractors who would actually say bad things about you and your business because they had a bad experience. And detractors tend to tell 10 times as many people as promoters. So you want as high a Net Promoter score as you can get. And what we found is that folks that are doing this digital transformation and have gone through this process of change, we found that those folks have actually seen a 59-point increase in their Net Promoter score to really going from something that was, a below average score, -3, which is really pretty abysmal, to 56, which is really up there in the neighborhood of Southwest Airlines and some of the brands that are most famous for great customer experiences. The -3 is probably something you might associate with a United Airlines and passengers getting dragged off of planes type of experience. So really big transformation benefits when you go through thinking about this technology stack. So with that, I'm going to pass the controls over to Victor, and he's going to tell you a little bit about, let me see how to do this here, change presenter. He's going to tell you a little bit about what the Wav Group does to help their clients and how to sort through all of the vast amount of technology options and choices are out there to help you build the right stack for your business to generate a lead to close, to go paperless and digital lead to close and find all the other benefits that technology can offer.
Well, great. Thank you very much, George. I'm Victor Lund. I'm with the Wav Group. I'm also the CEO of RE Technology. And Wav Group is a consulting firm. We work mostly with the nation's largest brokers. They typically have a lot of enterprise products in their business, and we help them map out their strategy for how they all work together and what are the best-in-class products that they can use to deliver services to their agents, who in turn support consumers. So we've been doing this type of work for companies who are members of the Realty Alliance, the largest 85 firms, for about a decade. Similarly, we do quite a bit of work with some of the networks and franchises like Leading RE and some of the other franchise organizations. And our specialty is really in enterprise. So our firm started out working with MLSs to help them develop a seamless set of products and services that agents can use in that environment. And from that, we borrowed the experience of being able to prop up systems for, not just a few agents, but thousands or tens of thousands of agents. So it kind of put us in a pretty unique position. A lot of what we do starts with strategy, so we're trying to understand what the brokerage firm or franchise is trying to accomplish. And moreover than not, today's primary leading strategy is a lead to close strategy. So how do I get my systems to talk to each other? How can we make the customer experience across a variety of applications seamless so they don't have to remember all kinds of logins, and the agent doesn't have to log into multiple applications in order to take care of their customer? So I'll just start with a little background on the vendor technology selection. I think one of the things that George pointed out is that a lot of brokerages today are beginning to look at their tech stack and not only looking at the application itself, but beginning to try and understand how that application is going to integrate with other applications in their business. So as you're moving this customer, you certainly want them to have that seamless experience, but the requirement there is that technology solutions talk to each other. And I know that Docusign has done a really good job at creating integrations that allow that customer record and all the notes and experience with that customer to transform itself from application to application without being re-entered. And we're going to talk a little bit about that when we talk about the live example when we look at Raj. We start our process with trying to understand where leads come from. I think, for the most part, brokerages see their leads coming from 3 different primary places online. One is listing syndication, the other is their IDX sites, and the third is emerging very quickly. It's actually social media. Obviously, you're still getting offline leads. Sign calls, in my opinion, are still some of the best sources of leads. You get far more sign calls and inquiries that way than you would ever get in any other method. But when you're thinking about a lead to close experience, you have to say, first and foremost, well, where do leads come from, and how do I optimize those leads, and what are my lead to close ratios and things like that. So certainly integrating with all of your lead sources is a key first step. There's a lot that happens in the transaction, and we're going to go through a variety of applications that are used by real estate agents when they move that customer from lead into some kind of transaction. We did some research with Weichert. They're one of the largest lead generation brokerages on the planet, and one of the things that we tried to address with them is how long does it actually take most leads to close? And surprisingly enough, the answer was somewhere north of 230 days. So when you start to average that out, you recognize that there's a bunch of leads that never go anywhere. They never close. They're just dead leads. Contrasting with people who happen to contact you that are ready to go and see houses tomorrow. But when you think holistically about it, you have to understand that the systems that are being used in your brokers are systems that have to maintain that relationship for hundreds of days, not just for a very quick turn into a transaction. And you have to nurture those leads, and we're going to talk a lot about what happens with that. But I do commend what Docusign has done to integrate their application into a variety of those systems. So when we think about systems integration, we try to survey all of the applications that are used in a brokerage. And one of the profound lessons that we learned a number of years ago is that when we ask a brokerage firm, what are all the tools that you use in your business? A lot of times they can't pull up a document that quickly shows that. So our first step is to try and understand what systems they have in place. A lot of times we'll just go and pull their accounts payable folder and look at all the people they're paying. That allows us to be able to sort of reconstruct in reverse all the applications in a business. You'd be surprised at the number of applications brokers are paying for that are no longer used or haven't been deployed or things like that. So it's always good hygiene to go about the process of just making sure to double check all the stuff you're paying for. Once we kind of set ourselves around the environment that a broker is operating in, we really start to look at some of the key performance components that have to do with a lead to close strategy. And a lot of that is benchmarking. So many brokers want to understand what their spend is per agent relative to other brokerages in their market or other brokerages of their size. And we do a lot of that research, and we try to, especially within networks where they have open sharing among brokerage firms, like the Realty Alliance and leading RE firms, they actually sit down in small groups and they bring all the information about their tech stack together, and they talk about the products that they're using and what they're paying for them, what the total cost is per agent. They have discussions about, are the agents paying this, or are we paying this? Is there, there's a lot of different business models that brokers deploy that have a lot to do with the products that they're offering their agents and the tools that are available to help consumers. So I'm going to go through a spreadsheet, and for anybody that's on the call that wants the spreadsheet, I'd be happy to send it to you. Just ping me or anyone on the call afterwards, and I'd be happy to provide it. But I created a quick list here of just 40 products that are pretty commonly used throughout real estate. Obviously, if you're going to go out and you're not just a buyer's, well, even buyer's agents use CMA. You have a buyer CMA or a seller CMA. Clearly, digital signature has been an enormous lift to both consumers and agents, not having to run documents around. Agents who are trying to cultivate that relationship with the consumer from the lead inception point are typically using some kind of drip marketing, and drip marketing is becoming very smart today, especially as you add in some tools like retargeting, which we can talk a little bit about later. IDX is pretty much a basic and obvious thing that people have. Some brokers go a little further, and they have virtual office websites that allow the consumer to see more information from the MLS than what's available through IDX. And there, the difference in VOW is that you're able to see some of the more confidential fields like days on market, price changes over time, stuff like that. It used to be you couldn't show sold data in a lot of markets unless you had a VOW. And that's still true in markets that are public record states, but it's not true in most of the other markets. In fact, the National Association of Realtors just updated some of their model rules to make sure that going back to, I think it's 2002, brokers can get all of the sold data from there. And that's really helpful. It helps you paint a picture about what's happening in the marketplace. Clearly, listing syndication is a big deal today for real estate brokers. We try to help brokers become really hygienic with their documents, but the big ones are Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, and Homes.com, and depending on where you are in the marketplace, there might be some others that are really important. Gone are the days where you just send your listings to 300 websites where you're not getting any traffic or any leads from them. And it's probably a good idea to be careful with where you send them. Mobile apps have obviously grown tremendously in real estate. We find that not only do brokers have apps that allow consumers to search through an app, but they've moved most of their websites over to mobile responsive websites. But now you see applications like Docusign as an example, where Docusign has a mobile app. So keeping track of all those mobile apps that you use in your business and onboarding agents and making sure that they're downloading and authenticating their accounts with the mobile apps is a really important part of what we do. Social media has really taken off. I list here Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat. And I think depending on the style of marketing that you do as a broker, which ones you use and how you use them and how effective they are is really going to determine your strategy there. Virtual tours are all over the board. We find that a lot of virtual tour companies have partnered with the MLS. I know Property Panorama has about 500,000 agents who get automated tools through their MLS as a virtual tour. And then a lot of people add their own. Certainly Raj is going to talk a little bit about the stuff that he uses, which is a far more advanced type of tour. Your website, accounting applications, agent ratings is a pretty big deal right now. There was a time when agent ratings wasn't dominated by Zillow, but right now it is. But certainly other ratings apps that you might use in your business, certainly all the Realogy companies use Real Satisfied, and to be able to put into your lead to close loop that back channel of being able to trigger a request for ratings is important to manage your online reputation. A lot of brokerage companies have an intranet that's just a private website for the agents that are in their business, and they can access documents and chat and do a lot of the things that kind of tell the story about what's happening internally with the brokerage. Blogging is just a fancy name for content management solution, but a lot of brokerage websites today have the ability for you to publish whatever you want. Some people have a lot of buyer's tools. If you're a brokerage that deals with commercial, that's a whole other set of applications. I didn't list them all here. I just delimited the category. Contracts and forms will typically come from your association or your MLS, and certainly making sure that those are legitimately able to be used within your transaction management system, that you're not violating any copyright, is really important. Obviously, all of your data needs to be backed up somewhere. Document management, floor plans, floor schedulers. So a lot of brokerages have floor time for their agents, and you need to be able to schedule that. It can be herding cats if you don't have a good scheduler solution. Lead management, obviously we're trying to follow business rules. What we normally see is that brokers send the listing, the lead on a company listing directly to the listing agent, but all IDX listings might either go through their relo or referral departments or just be distributed round robin to their agents. The listing presentation, in my mind, is probably the most important piece of software that's most often overlooked by brokers. We see far too many just using the CMA system that might be offered by their MLS and not actually telling the story of the brokerage and telling the story of the agent, which are components to that listing presentation that really make a difference other than the data that comes from the MLS. Your lock boxes today are becoming smart lock boxes. There's a lot more of an application there than a lot of people imagine. A lot of mobile apps for lock boxes that allow you to pull reports for the number of showings you did on a property, and you can take that report and tie it right into your CMA and automatically notify your consumer about all of the showings that you've done. Market analytics are really important today. Your MLS tools could be broad or narrow depending on the MLS that you're in. I talked a little bit about mobile search with the mobile apps section, but a lot of your websites today, you want to make sure that it's mobile enabled. That's really important for search engine optimization, but you also just want to provide a great experience when somebody uses a browser to look at your listings. Tragically enough, online fax is still around. A lot of people are still paying for a fax service if it's not componentized to their transaction management system, where you can just fax in a document. So that's sort of a legacy product that's still hanging on a little bit. Online marketing and pay-per-click campaigns, you're going to hear from Raj how important those are and how he blends that metrics into all of the other applications that he's using. Photography services, there's no doubt that professional photography is a really heightened way to market a property for sale. Some of the things that we focus on there primarily are making sure that you get the right permissions from the photographer to be able to use their photos in any of your marketing and advertising and not violate any of their copyright. There's printing services. Property management is becoming a bigger business for brokers. Obviously, a real estate professional understands that that rentals are either a between step between homes or an entry step before you get into a home. So having a property management business and all of its associated technology solutions is pretty important for enterprise brokers. Public records and tax integration usually either comes in the form of a service being offered through your MLS, a product like Realist, or every realtor has access to it through the Realtor's Property Resource as well. QR codes are still hanging around for the most part. That was something that came and went, but nevertheless we think about it. Showing appointment software is important, your signs and sign writers. A lot of brokerages have automated the process of sign up, sign down service. So the real estate agent just requests the service, puts in the property address, and that happens. Single property websites are still pretty popular. Transaction management, I think George talked about a little bit. Video services, videos, completely changing the way properties are marketed online. Open houses, and then predictive analytics is stuff that's coming along pretty fast. You've seen the emergence of companies like SmartZip, who go out and look at a community of people and they say, well, who's most likely to sell? What kind of things do we know about these people which put them in a position to maybe make a trade? Obviously, some of the things that are obvious, like divorces, typically trigger home sales. But if you have a customer that's upside down, has very little equity, has moved in the last 2 years, that's probably not a customer that you're going to want to target and prospect. So that's sort of the ecosystem here. In just a second, we're going to talk to Raj about his ecosystem. But when you level set around all the tools that are used in your business, you might be pretty astonished to see the number of products and product categories that you're supporting. And you might be surprised to see exactly how much you're spending. It's significantly more than you might imagine. So the spreadsheet that I'm about to show you has some pretty basic information that's all compiled in one site. We like to know, obviously, who the company name is. As George talked about, these API connectors are really important. So if companies publish an API, an application programming interface, it allows another company to just look at the documentation and begin to move data back and forth between their applications. So that's one of the things that we've started to collect now, and it could be a difference maker in the products that you choose. Obviously, having all the contact information for your vendors is really important, when the contract start dates are and when the renewal dates are. We often find that renewal dates come and go without brokers really spending a lot of time deciding about whether or not that's a product they want to maintain in their business. A lot of brokers kind of fall down on doing agent satisfaction studies to make sure that they're happy with the products they have. They're not necessarily tracking all the user adoption for all the products and services they have. So that kind of stuff is pretty contextualized and pretty important to keep track of in your brokerage. So I just want to show now real quickly how this manifests itself into a worksheet that we put together and go through with our customers. Some of the things that I omitted on this is I usually like to have the admin username and password here, but for these purposes, I didn't display that. But we put the category of products down the side. The answers here are what Raj is going to go through next. But as you can see, we just like the category and then some of these names of billing contacts, contract start dates. It's always the best practice to take your contract end dates and then roll those back into your calendar. So if you know that January 1st your contract ends and you have 30 days to let them know whether you want to continue, you may want to start the vetting process 60 to 90 days beforehand, but certainly put a note in your calendar to cancel that contract should you not continue to renew. So Raj, are you with us?
Hi, Victor. Yes, I am.
Excellent. So I went pretty fast there. I hope that all made sense, but I wonder if you can just start us off by telling a little bit about your company and where you guys operate, the size of your business, and those types of things before we dive into the details on the products and services you offer.
Yeah, of course. That sounds great. Well, first of all, thanks so much to George at Docusign, Victor, yourself with the Wav Group, and Inman News team for having me on the call today. My name is Raj Qsar, and I'm founder and owner of the Real Estate Group, and we literally are a boutique real estate brokerage based and born right here in Orange County, California. So that little piece of heaven between Los Angeles and San Diego. We're also super, super passionate, and we founded our company based on technology, social media, and creative design, and putting all that together and doing things just a little bit differently, in our opinion. So we sell homes anywhere in Orange County and surrounding areas, price points ranging from the low end 500,000 or so, all the way to luxury multi-million-dollar properties. We have heavily focused on all the things I just mentioned, and have a lot of fun doing it at the same time.
And how many agents do you have?
We have about 40 agents or so and a staff of about 10.
And then is that one office or two offices?
Right, so we have two offices, one in the little city of Corona del Mar within Newport Beach, right on the coast of Orange County. We also have an office in the city of Brea, which is in the northern part of Orange County. So two offices, 40 agents, 10 staff.
And you guys as a boutique, you've really focused on massive production per agent in your company, like you probably in an uncommon way. Like your total unit volume and dollar volume is what, somewhere between 300 and 400 million?
Yeah, on the lower end of that scale, but yeah, so we do about on a slow year 125, 130 transactions. On a busy year, a couple hundred transactions. Average price point right around 1.5 million.
Excellent. So one of the things that that you exposed me to, which I think was pretty different than what we see at a lot of brokerages, is that you actually use your content management solution as the center point or the hub of all your technology products, right?
Yeah. So on the prep call yesterday, I was saying how things have dramatically changed in the world of technology over the last 5 to 10 years. Back when I started as a single agent, my one thing I wanted to do was get a website. I had no idea what the website would do, but I know I just needed a website. I had no idea. But then as technology started to progress, and I'm talking about today like APIs and open platforms, things started connecting to your website. So all the real estate portals, social media, lead gen, all that kind of stuff was connecting, but we started getting an overwhelming amount of contacts and data, and the website wasn't the place to do that at the time. And so we needed to find a solution. And we went through a handful of CRMs at the time, not knowing really what a CRM totally was, to be completely honest with you, but knowing that we needed one. And we needed a place to use the data, because the data was honestly where, you know, the dollars were. That was the long-term play for us, was the data and the contacts that we had that were reaching out to us or reaching out to them through ads and digital and print and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's flip-flopped over the last few years. Now kind of the hub of everything is basically our CRM, and everything is pointing into our CRM.
And so the customer record itself is the epicenter of everything that you do. And that customer record's also connected to your email and to your calendar and to your task list. I think you guys are using Gmail, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, and the neat thing about that is with an email address or with a phone number, we're able to tell a lot about a contact. So if that's the same email they use on social media, we can quickly see what they do for a job on their Facebook profile, their LinkedIn profile, what their last tweet was, or their last Instagram post. With a phone number, we could find out a lot about them as well, like where they live. And it's really, really different now. One of the things we train our agents on is, like, you know, when you get an email and you're about to reply to a contact that you've never replied to, just take a deep breath, check all the apps within Gmail that we've integrated, and see who this person is. See if you have any connections, any commonality. You know, like, just take a moment before you hit reply.
And have you created workflows around that? So when a new customer lead comes in, you not only check to make sure they either are or are not in your database, but then the agents build out a profile of that user, and then that profile is used by all the other applications in your business because they're all connected to Gmail?
That's exactly right. So everything's talking to each other now, like you guys were discussing earlier, with APIs that are able to integrate between our CRM, between our Gmail, with our website, with all the apps that we integrate into Gmail. Through all the real estate portals, we could really tell a lot and create workflow specific if it's client or current, if it's a buyer, if it's a seller. If the lead specifically came from, say, Zillow or Realtor.com, there's different workflows and a different language that you're able to speak depending on where the lead came from.
Excellent. So some of the things that I was quick to point out or quick to notice is you said that your brokerage doesn't really have a mobile app, but you do kind of have, or your agents don't have a mobile app, is that right? But they do kind of have it through MLS Touch, through their MLS, and you started using a product called Real Scout. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah, sure thing. So in my personal opinion, I didn't need, because I'm still a selling agent as well, I don't need my own personal app that says Raj on it. Really, I mean, someone could take our website and save it to their home screen on their phone, and it's completely mobile friendly. You can register, you can receive email alerts, you can get listing alerts, you can do anything you want. But to build out a system like that and to compete against real estate portals just wasn't in my interest, and it wasn't my passion to do that. So come along things like MLS Touch or Real Scout, which are mobile friendly, and our agents with MLS Touch are able to brand that, send listing alerts to the client if they need to, look at showing instructions and commission payouts. It's a great app for that. It's the only app I use when I'm out in the field. But our clients are super integrated into Real Scout. So Real Scout is a great listing alert system that integrates with our CRM and integrates with the real estate portal. It works really well and speaks in a natural language, which increases our engagement with our clients. So what we basically saw is instead of buyers getting listing alerts from the MLS or from our IDX platform, they were responding in a much higher rate through the messages they were receiving from Real Scout.
Excellent. So one of the things that you're doing with social media, which I think is really fascinating, is retargeting, and that's something that's known by a few people, but not well understood by many. Can you talk about what retargeting is and how that works into your social media strategy and your online advertising strategy?
Sure thing, I'd be happy to, Victor. So the thing with retargeting, and when I'm sitting at that kitchen table and speaking to a seller and saying, this is what we're going to do with your home, one of the things I just simply point out is, have you ever shopped for a pair of shoes at Nordstrom, online, on Nordstrom.com? And isn't it funny that you throw it in your cart and Nordstrom knows that those pairs are in your cart, and then all of a sudden those same shoes are on your Facebook feed, they're on your Twitter feed, they're on your Instagram account. I mean, basically everywhere you go, those pair of shoes are there. So we do that very similarly with ads for people's homes, ads for our agents, seller ads, seller listing alerts, buyer ads. We do that with everything. And so with the integration of retargeting into social media, you're able to pull this database that we've been collecting for 10 plus years, drop a specific list on Facebook, and follow those people around the web with ads either for a listing or a grand opening or an event, or we've got a list for just brokers, and we're able to advertise to them for broker opens or event marketing or whatever we're doing. We're able to do that and stay constant. And one of the things I say is, like, if you're not in the newsfeed, you literally don't exist. So it allows us to stay relevant and present in the newsfeed. And so we do exist, and we are engaging with our clients that way.
And are you doing anything that drives leads? Are you doing lead capture off your Facebook posts as well, where you post something to Facebook and they click a link to view it, and it says, do you want to authorize this through Facebook? And you click the button, and then suddenly your company has all their contact information. Are you guys starting to do that?
Yeah, so Facebook a little while ago introduced landing pages to their ads, and so we've integrated custom landing pages on all the ads that we're running on Facebook.
That's awesome. And another note that I would make about retargeting is that retargeting is almost something that you can do before somebody becomes a lead. So you can put a cookie on your website, so when that browser is recognized, it says, oh, I've been to Raj's website. And Raj says, oh, well, you never signed up, but maybe I can provide you some more information that might tune you to wanting to do business with my brokerage, or give you information about some properties that we're looking at and things like that. Are you starting to use the cookie-based retargeting, or just the custom audience where you have the contacts information?
So we're actually doing a little bit of both. So we're doing a lot of retargeting with, like the conversion pixels and the landing pages on Facebook. But outside of that, there's a lot of vendors that are doing retargeting as well. And so we're also using that. The neat thing about those, a lot of times they're either like zip code based or city based or whatever. But what we've done is we've taken the retargeting pixel. So when someone is leaving that specific zip code, we're still able to follow them wherever they are. So a great example is if we buy a zip code in, say, Newport Beach, and we're running a retargeting campaign in that specific zip code, and someone clicks on one of our ads, the neat thing about what we've done is on all of our agent websites, on the brokerage website, on our seller capture websites, and anything that we're building in-house, we have the ability to take the retargeting pixel from that retargeting campaign and drop that pixel on the back of each individual website. So when that person leaves Newport Beach and they go to Yorba Linda, we're still following them around the web. So it's an ever constant reminder of our company, our listing, our smiley happy face, whatever we're promoting. It's it's always there.
So a lot of these things that you're doing that you've integrated with your tech stack have a lot to do with that motion between lead or pre-lead to the point where you're actually working with them to either list their house or work with them as a buyer to find them a house. I noticed that, pretty much to all these questions, virtual tour, website, accounting, I mean, you said yes to everything. Your advice you didn't know. You don't use Tom Ferry. I'll take that out. But that's what I was thinking. A lot of brokerages and a lot of agents use coaches, and sometimes those coaches have things that you can log into. With the list that's on here, I notice floor scheduling you don't have software for. Your staff does that, right?
No, we don't. Floor scheduling. Again, we're still in that very romantic number of 10 staff and 40 agents, so we haven't had the need to do that. But we do use like an intranet, so to speak, if things, if someone can't make it or they're sick or they've got showings or whatever, to get the floor covered that day.
Oh, that's great. Of these products that are listed here, are there particular ones where you've seen they're real difference makers or really strong applications that you would recommend people really focus on using and integrating and exploiting?
Well, I mean, for sure, the first thing is a CRM, and a CRM that has the ability to do a lot of things. So not just email, but create specific lists, that's able to drip market, that can auto text and auto email, like things like that are really, really essential. But also one of the things you need is some of these new like auto texting apps for lead conversion. So when you have a true real cell phone number and you generate a down lead, a lot of times people aren't answering their phone. A lot of times they're not replying to email, or the email goes to spam and you just don't know that. But everyone seems to reply to text. So a lot of these auto texting features for inbound lead and converging and engaging seem to be really amazing.
That's great. Yeah, and generally, a lot of people talk about that as AI, or augmented reality or stuff like that, AR, and that I think that's a fancy term for just sending information via text for the most part.
Yeah.
Be able to watch those workflows. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you're managing leads and that lead funnel today, and how you distribute them, and how do you manage the agents and their lead follow-up and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I mean, I could go back to like 5-6 years ago when we started figuring out what the heck a lead was, and it's like, oh my gosh, someone responded to something. Like, now what do? I basically hit the person next to me and go, hey, do you want a lead in Newport Beach for $1 million buyer? And they'd be like, oh my God, yes. I mean, that was our CRM back then. You know what I mean? And now it's really advanced and is really, really different. So depending on where the lead came from is kind of how it gets managed. So if it comes from one of the real estate portals, and just for fun, we'll say we have a Premier Agent Concierge, which works the lead for us. And we actually have the option within the Zillow app to take the lead on ourselves within the first 2 minutes, or have the concierge take it on. So depending on what we're doing at that exact moment, we can either take the lead ourselves or push it to the concierge. If the concierge starts working it, we let them work it, and then they'll do like a warm transfer directly to me on the phone, and I'll take the lead and engage the lead from then. But at the same time, that same lead is into like our Zillow CRM, but also our brokerage and agent CRM as well. And so depending if it's a buyer or seller, it gets segmented into different drip and different emails. So just depending on that. They're also getting an auto text for us if we don't hear from them within the first hour. So if we're not able to connect with them directly from the Premier Agent Concierge or myself, they're starting to get auto text from us as well. So that's one thing. If coming from the brokerage website, which we receive a ton of leads through the brokerage website, if it comes through that, it's basically uploaded into our CRM. I get a text, and then I'm calling or emailing and following up with them directly. That lead then gets dropped into, depends if it's a buyer or seller, or just like a general info lead. It gets segmented into a certain, say, bucket, which our CRM starts taking over from there. Once we get to the point of engagement, if it's a buyer or seller, then we're assigning an agent at the brokerage.
Great. Well, we have a few
that
more
lead
minutes.
Is then transferred from yeah, I was just going to say, then that lead is transferred, once we hand it to an agent, is transferred from the agent or from the brokerage to the agent into their CRM. So now they can see every single contact and every single touch that the brokerage has had with that lead.
Can you in the last few minutes that we have here, can you just talk a little bit about your transaction management workflow and how you guys handle that?
Yeah, so I mean, we use Docusign and Docusign transaction rooms at our brokerage. We've been a long time partner with them, really from the very beginning. And so our staff is completely trained on transaction rooms. And so everyone in the transaction is invited into the room at the beginning. Specific things are shared with specific people, but also through like our escrow company as well is now on Docusign and Docusign transaction room as well. So everyone in the escrow process is involved there as well.
Do you find that to be easier? I mean, I know that a lot of the banks will appreciate DocuSign, but not a lot of the other digital signature applications. Are you finding that just the flow of using transactions is better because of the vendor that you chose?
Yeah, I believe so. We haven't had any major issues. A lot of people are using different platforms, and so it gets a little complicated if the buy side is using one thing, the sell side is using one thing, and then escrow is using their own software. Title and the lender is using their own. So it gets a little complicated sometimes, but for the most part, especially for management of the transaction long-term for our clients, our own clients, it's very, very helpful. Like we had someone yesterday call up and say, hey, I can't find my login for transaction rooms. I need all my paperwork. Can you send that over? And our transaction coordinators are able to email that to them directly, and they have all their stuff from the transaction we were in 2 years ago.
What a tremendous time saver. I noticed that you're not doing any digital farming like SmartZip or any of the predictive analytics or anything like that. Do you think that that's a technology that is going to have strong legs in our industry, or is that something you just haven't sampled, or is that something you tried and didn't have success with? What's your feeling there?
Yeah, no, we haven't tried it. We've definitely spoken to a few of those companies out there. We just haven't integrated into our tech stack, so to speak, but I definitely think there's a place for it long term.
Cool. Well, with that, I think we have about 10 minutes left. We can do some Q&A. So I can stop sharing my screen, and we'll give it back to Devin at In the News.
All right, thanks very much. And if anybody is out there listening and you have questions, feel free to go ahead and type them in at this point. We'll get everything started with this one. How do you get more information from phone numbers? Do you use Redx or something like it?
That's probably a Raj question.
There's a bunch of apps out there that are able to gather information from phone numbers. So I would suggest just Googling that, kind of like you can from email addresses. There's ways to do that as well with phone numbers.
All right, very good. Next question is also for Raj. What CRM are you using?
Got it. So we have two CRMs that we're currently using. All the agents are on the enterprise level of contactually, so they're able to see and share content if they want to, and see and share transactions if they want to. The brokerage is on a CRM called Chime, C-H-I-M-E.
Very good. Let's see here. How do you prioritize which technologies to integrate once you have them all lined up?
Is that for Raj again? I mean, I'm happy to answer that. I think it really depends on what you want to integrate. Goal of the brokerage is. A lot of brokerages work very differently. So I could pull it apart at a 10,000-foot level and figure out, like, are you a brokerage that's going to generate leads for your agents or not? That's number one. Number two, are you a brokerage that has years and years of contacts and data, and you need to figure out where you want to put those contacts and data, and are you going to start talking to those contacts and data again? So I think depending on that, and then are you going to integrate Docusign into all of this? Are you on Gmail? Like, all that stuff is super essential. I think if you're not on Gmail, then you need to start over, basically, because it wouldn't make sense for me personally.
So this is George. I might jump in and just build on that a little bit, and Raj kind of hit on it. And I'm sure Victor has a point of view on this as well, since he consults and advises so many brokerages. But from our view, pick a pain point for your brokerage and start with one thing, right? It can be overwhelming to try to do this entire technology stack, and Raj has built this business over years and built this stack over years, and so it's helpful to know sort of what the end state is that you want to be as a technology-driven broker, and sort of to use this. Raj is a great role model for this, but pick a particular pain point. Like Raj said, maybe it's leads and lead conversion. Maybe you're seeing a lot of deals falling through at the last minute because of a missed inspection or missed deadlines in the contract process. So and transaction management could help with that. Maybe there's some pain points around the commissions that, again, integrating transaction management with your back office solution could help. So I'd suggest find that one thing to get started, and just get started with that area and sort of get that up and running, and then pick sort of the next and the next, and you'll get some momentum behind the full stack.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add to that is we do see Google integration more prevalently with smaller brokers than we see with larger brokers, mostly because enterprise level mail systems were first and foremost predominantly adopted through the Microsoft platform Exchange. And as people had to make choices to go from hosted Exchange servers up to the new Microsoft 360 application, which is pretty similar in many regards to what Google offers, that's changing a little bit. And but certainly, we've seen so much fraud through email and things like that that brokers have painstakingly made email a place of importance in their business. And I think that we see that most of the enterprise level technology firms have a choice to either integrate Gmail with tasks and calendars at an enterprise level as well as Microsoft products. But yeah, I mean, you certainly need to survey the vendors that you're using and find out how those applications fit together, because losing contact records is probably the biggest loss of an asset, a data asset within a brokerage today. The second area that we see a lot of integration pain point happening is typically the accounting function within a brokerage is not connected to the lead funnel. So it's very difficult to forecast revenues when you don't see the likelihood of deals closing within a particular period of time. So, a lot of brokers will just open up their lead funnel and look at that and then kind of swag what their anticipated revenues are going to be, but more sophisticated brokers are doing full-on integrations where Docusign would just connect directly to Lone Wolf, and you could see those deals as they come through and when they're likely to close and things like that. And that has really made a big difference for revenue forecasting of brokers.
All right, great. And we have time for just a few more questions here. Another question for Raj. Where do you find your best lead generation, and do you really find that it takes north of 200 days to convert it to a sale?
Oh, that's like the million-dollar question. For us, we've seen, honestly, like I said on the prep call yesterday, for us it's word of mouth and referrals. I mean, it literally has been referrals. But when you talk about digital marketing and online leads, social media, and the data you have within the listings itself and how you present that has really been like a win-win for us. Amazing photography, post-production on all our photos, really high production value video, killer 3D tours, floor plans, like that kind of stuff, and then pushing that socially, boosting ads, running targeted campaigns to specific areas, whether you're doing an open house or an event, that in itself has been absolutely amazing for us. And we're also quite busy on Zillow as well.
Yeah, we've kind of seen the same thing. Zillow is probably tops in of syndication sites or online advertising sites. They're tops in generating the most volume of leads, especially since you're combining Zillow and Trulia leads into one platform. But we're finding lead to close quality much higher at Realtor.com and Homes.com. So you have fewer of them, but they're more likely to close. I'm not exactly sure why that's the case. Maybe it's just the nature of Zillow.com itself, where people go and look at their house, they look at their value, or they look at a friend or neighbor's house and have some questions about that with, maybe less interest in selling or buying. And in terms of social media, that's, we're working with Facebook right now, and we help them with their go-to-market strategy in real estate. And one of the things that people don't really understand is that Facebook is actually generating more revenue from the real estate industry than Zillow is. And it's kind of a surprising thing, but they've made advertising online so easy, and they've allowed people to be hyper-focused with the people they advertise to. And I think drawing back not only to what Raj experienced in his business, where 75% is repeat and referrals, but just overall, the NAR data shows that 80% of a broker's business comes from repeat and referral. And I think those two things go hand in hand. Probably the reason why Raj is a little more successful with bringing on new customers is directly related to their focus on it as a company and their understanding of how to generate leads outside of that referral network and just the 20% that come in over the transom. But that's generally what we're seeing, is that sphere marketing and staying in touch with your customer for life and making sure that the contact information that you're putting in your CRM and the drip marketing to stay in front of that customer to make sure they understand you've never forgotten about them are the things that will catapult a company's business forward more quickly than listing syndication or online advertising or any other impact.
All right, great, and I think we have time for just one more question here. So speaking of using and integrating Google Apps, what specific services do you use and how do you tie them together for the brokerage, your agents, and transactions, etc.?
Okay, so this is Raj. So there's a lot of, one of the reasons we use the G Suite products is you're able to integrate so much into Gmail. So many apps are able to integrate. Like Docusign has a great Chrome extension that you can get a document, a PDF into your Gmail. You could literally hit the extension, open up Docusign, and sign within Gmail and send it right off. So that's one great thing. There's other apps that you're able to drop in. Like a great example is Rapportive, Rapportive. Rapportive is a Gmail Chrome extension where every time you get an email from someone, you basically know who they are. If that email is anything that matches any online profile, you're able to see where they work, their phone number, basically where they live, if they're connected on Facebook with that, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, anything they've connected, you're able to see that. You're not able to do that with a lot of the other products. And so those are two great examples of what you're able to do. Our CRM has a Gmail app as well. So we're able to drop contacts directly into a specific workflow directly from Gmail without even going into our CRM.
All right, great. That is just about all the time we have for our webinar today. I wanted to thank everybody for asking questions. For those of you who asked questions that didn't get answered, Docusign will follow up with you after this session to make sure that you're all set on those. Just a reminder that we did record the webinar today, and you'll receive a link to the recording by email later this afternoon. And I do want to thank our presenters, George, Victor, and Raj, for being here today, and of course Docusign for making this webinar possible. Find out more about them and all that they do at docusign.com. And thank you again to you, the audience, for spending some of your Tuesday with us. We definitely appreciate your participation in the webinar and taking time out of your day to learn a little bit. We will see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.